Hey guys, it's Corey from CM Images Photography. So last week we talked about some things you can do to make your wedding planning a little bit easier. And today we're going to be talking about something else that's along the lines of planning a wedding. We're going to be talking about the photography, some things you can do to help yourself, help your photographer get you the best photos possible during the wedding. First, one thing we need to think about, weddings are stressful events, right? Everybody knows it. Now the thing about stress is sometimes it can be contagious. If you walk into a room full of people who are running around trying to get things done, lots of tension in the room, you might start to feel it yourself. And the fact that there's now an extra person in the room who's stressed out can add to the stress of the room, which in turn adds to your stress, and it's just a big spiral of doom. Now think about it from a wedding photographer's point of view. This person is tasked with capturing an entire day's worth of once-in-a-lifetime moments, right? There's a bit of stress there. Fortunately, most photographers have done this a lot, so they're pretty well used to it and equipped to handle it. Having said that, still when a photographer walks into a room with a lot of stress, it can add a bit to what they're feeling, which in turn can make, the stress in the room get a bit higher. Everybody else gets more stressed out, which in turn makes the photographer's job harder. But it can also work the other way. Sometimes if a person who's completely relaxed walks into a room with some people who are kind of stressed out and running around like crazy, their calmness can have an effect on other people and diffuse the tension a bit, whether it's, properly timed joke or whatever. So a lot of what we're going to be talking about today is along those lines, helping you get the photographer the best opportunities to get the best photos by making their job a bit easier, which in turn will allow them to make your day less stressful. Because the photographer is going to be with you the entire day. So if this person is good at keeping your stress level low with whatever means they have, it could be, as I said, a good joke. It could be you need a last-minute wardrobe adjustment and they just happen to have a small pair of scissors on them. Anything like that will help everybody have the best day possible. So obviously the first and most important thing about photography is you need light, right? That's how it works. So generally when you're looking for a portrait location, you might want to look for some place that has a lot of natural light and feels very bright and open. If it doesn't have a lot of natural light, at least lots of artificial light will still work. Generally as a photographer, I find it's a lot easier to work with too much light than too little. So if, for example, you've decided that you're going to get ready before the wedding in an area that's very dark and dim and a little closed down, that's going to make things a bit harder for photography. I've been in some rooms, for example, that are kind of dark. The only light sources there are pot lights in the ceiling. And so they're very harsh light, they give harsh shadows, and usually it's because the light's coming straight down, you get harsh shadows right under the eyes, and it looks kind of like what we call raccoon lighting. That's something you generally want to avoid. An area with nice big windows, if you can get high ceilings, that's great, but it's not necessary. You generally want to look for areas, as I said, that are kind of bright and open. Same thing goes for your portrait location. If it's a place that's nice and bright, usually a park does quite well. There's a lot of natural light, but there's also a lot of places with shade that will help get you really nice quality photos there. And certainly I know as a photographer, whenever I walk into a room and I see it's nice, big, bright, lots of natural light, room to move around, I know it's going to be a pretty easy time getting portraits in that spot. So I tend not to stress out too much. So another thing that can add stress to your wedding day is the schedule. If you've got a lot to do and not too much time to get it done in, you're going to be feeling a little bit of pressure. So what you want to do, this seems quite obvious, is just plan more time than you need. The more time you have to get things done, the more relaxed you're going to be, and that will come across in the photos. Getting photos of stressed people is always a lot harder to do than getting photos of people who are feeling perfectly calm and relaxed and know that everything's going according to schedule and they've got plenty of time to get everything done. So always just plan a little bit extra time for each segment of the day. If you expect it to take 15 minutes to get from the ceremony venue to the park where you're getting your portraits, plan 25. It'll work out in the end. So there are two words that every wedding photographer dreads hearing. Those two words are no photos. This is something you can hear sometimes from an officiant at a ceremony when we walk in and we introduce ourselves and they say, no photos allowed. It's rare, but it does happen. I actually had one officiant a while back who wouldn't even let me in the church during the ceremony. I had to stand by the entrance and wait for the signing and the ring exchange, which was the only part that I was allowed to actually photograph. So the couple had next to no photos of the ceremony because the officiant simply wouldn't allow it. As I said, it's rare, but it does happen. And I think most of the time it's because some officiants, maybe early on in their career, had one too many photographers that were just no holds barred and were running around all over the place and getting in the way of the ceremony. So they finally decided, that's it, no photos. Or at least no photos except during key moments of the ceremony, or photos okay, but no flash, which makes things very difficult because it could be a very old, really dark church. I've had that happen a few times. So one way around that is sometime way before the wedding, when you're meeting with your officiant, I'd suggest asking them about it. If they say no photos, you can ask them why, and you can ask them if they can maybe make an exception in your case. Ask if they have certain ground rules that they would be willing to speak to the photographer about. You can always ask them if it's okay to meet with the photographer ahead of time, because if they find that the photographer is someone who's actually very professional and respectful, they may decide to let the rules slide for this person. So if you can get that taken care of ahead of time, it can save you having a little bit of a surprise during the ceremony when you look around and find your photographer is nowhere to be seen. So when you're looking for a good spot to do your family portrait session, you're going to want to pick a spot that has a lot of shade. And I know I said you need a lot of natural light, but not direct natural light. If you're getting married on a cloudless 30-degree day in the middle of July, you don't want to have direct sunlight. First, direct sunlight is very harsh. It gives a lot of harsh shadows, it gives very harsh reflections. Everybody's going to be squinting a lot, and you really don't want that in your photos. So you got to shoot in the shade. The other reason you don't want direct sunlight, remember when I said you get a lot of reflections a moment ago? Think about it. If it's a 30-degree day, it's quite hot. Your skin's going to be a little shiny. You don't want direct sunlight hitting that because it's going to give big harsh reflections on your skin on top of the harsh shadows, and it's just not going to look good at all. So if you shoot in the shade, you're going to get nice soft lighting. You're going to be able to see your eyes because you won't have to squint because of the light. Everything will be a lot more even, and it'll look a lot better in the photos. On top of that, you're not going to be getting hit with the direct sunlight, so you're not going to be feeling the heat anywhere near as much, which can make your day a lot more comfortable, especially if you're a bride wearing tons of fabric, or if you're a groom dressed in head to toe black. You're going to want to stay out of the heat as much as you can. So the last bit of advice for getting good photos on your wedding day is to simply just relax. Don't try and force a smile because it usually comes across looking insincere. Just don't worry about anything you don't have to worry about. You spent anywhere from 6 months to 2 years planning this day, so you've planned for everything. Anything that goes wrong is going to be some minor inconvenience. Somebody might be late, but they're going to show up. The flowers might not look exactly the same as they did in the shop, but again, it's not really a big deal. Minor inconveniences might happen here and there, but as I said, you've planned for all of this. Everything's going to go pretty much according to the way you planned it. You know all those horror stories you hear about where things go horribly wrong? The reason you hear about them is because they almost never happen. Odds are your wedding is going to go off pretty much 100% almost the way you planned it. And if anything comes up, it'll be very minor, and you'll be able to fix it very quickly, and you've got a bunch of other people around you who can help you fix it. So let them take some of the burden as well, and just enjoy your day.